Good evening and welcome to Ask the Unicorn. I'm Ahura Z. I'll be your host this evening. Now, if there are questions about the metaphysical or the paranormal or the spiritual, if there's something that's going on in your life that you need answers to, I am your person. I will answer any questions that you have. Remember, it's best to ask questions that everyone is going to benefit from. Remember that we do have children that also watch. Speaking of, I would like to say hello to all of my little homies out there, all my friends. Now, I just want to make sure so that I'm not missing anyone. You all know who you are. That means from A to Z. You all know who you are. And I want to say hello to you all, including one more. There's one called Marina I want to give a shout out to. It's best for saying all of that is best for all of us to understand that children do listen to this, and since most of them are off this week, they're going to be paying attention. Now, let's get down to some of the questions. What does it mean when Mercury is retrograde, and how does it affect us? Now, when a planet goes retrograde, this is someone who wants to know about astrology, because whenever Mercury goes retrograde, everything that has to do with electronics such as communication, telecommunication, data entry, messages that should be sent to you or received seems to go haywire. Almost anything that has to do with machinery seems to go haywire. Now, let me explain this to you. Retrograde usually means backwards. However, in this particular case, it's more like it has a more expanded orbit. So when the other planets are orbiting, it can seem as though it's going backward. It really isn't. It just seems to move a little slower because it's further out. Now, on an energetic level, let me explain this to you. Mercury, which has to do with communication, telecommunication, transportation, anything that has to do with a dynamic from one place to another. That would be Mercury. Anything that has to do with a mental stance, but not just a stance, but a moving stance. Anything that has to do with speed, most times intelligence, although it seems that in many cases intelligence will not necessarily be affected. But if you're expecting a letter and that letter has not come, you've tried to make your email work and it seems to have these problems even though you just got a brand new computer, that would be the effect of Mercury. Mercury can seem as though it is an abundance of things that have to do with an electrical energetic stance. However, there are ways to combat this. All you have to do is calm down. Things will happen when they happen. It affects us in a very interesting way because, as you all know, Mercury was the mythological god of speed, if you will, or transportation, not just the FTD guy. But it does affect us in the way that it can slow things down, make them not work, or seem as though something is getting in the way. However, it's a tremendous opportunity. It is an opportunity for you to discipline yourself and maintain your mental stance and make sure that things get done the way that they need to get done. If you do that for the duration of Mercury being retrograde, then once it goes direct again, which means it takes its normal orbit, it takes its normal speed, and things stop being affected, then all of the energy, all of the discipline that you have amassed during the time of its retrograde will be yours. In other words, you'll get double the benefit from it. And this includes mental speed. So that's one way. It would take the whole hour to explain everything that Mercury actually does. Now, here's one of the children. Bella wants to know the significance of a full moon. Well, okay, it's really pretty, Bella. No, that's not all. The significance of a full moon is we are water-based beings, not base, but our bodies contain over 80% water. And because of that, we are affected by the moon's gravitational pull and the moon's gravitational field alongside of Earth's. Now, during a full moon, which is really interesting, the full moon has gotten this really bad reputation for things that have to do with a metaphysical nature. Whenever you see the movies, the werewolf comes out, it's full moon, vampires come out, it's full moon, bad things happen on a full moon. It's actually not the truth. As a matter of fact, more good things can happen on a full moon than not. The moon is kind of a reflective of the sun. You might call it a mini sun in the metaphysical world. What this means is that if there are several different phases of the moon, there's one that's waxing, there's one that's waning. Now when it's waxing is going towards the full moon. It's when the moon is the brightest in the sky, okay? That's your full moon that in many places and in many cases can seem extremely close and seem almost like daylight. Now metaphysically speaking, that actually shields you, it protects you. It can give more light on anything that is happening. Now, you hear people say from time to time they like to cover themselves with white light, even though they say that and not have a clue as to what that means. The moon is your physical white light, you might say, just like the sun is. Okay? Now, in metaphysical mean or in spiritual means, the moon acts like a protectorate to cause things on a spiritual level not necessarily to happen. It can guard, protect, and shield even against some dark forces. Now, when the moon is at a new moon position, which means that you really can't see it in the sky, it means it's beginning a new cycle. More things of a paranormal nature happen then than not. Now, I know what you've seen in the movies, but the truth is, full moon, good thing. New moon, good thing as well, but more things happen during the new moon than the full moon. Interesting how it got reversed. You know, you see the werewolf movies and, you know, all of a sudden the person changes because it's a full moon. I'm willing to bet that if that did happen, it happened during the new moon. It's because there's less reflective nature that is coming through because we've turned. And the moon has followed us in an orbit and probably turned as well. Now, basic full moon is when the water in your body gets pulled. This is the scientific stuff. Your body actually responds, particularly women, responds to the full moon. The new moon, not so much. And what that means to you, Bella, is that if you're being a good girl and not sucking your thumb, that means you get an extra gift during the full moon. I can tell her what I want. And basically, full moon, good thing. New moon, good thing, just not as positive, okay? You know, so just be a good girl during the full moon. No changing into werewolves, okay? All right. Alongside that, for those of us that are more mature, listen, the moon is the moon, no matter what. And I find it very, very interesting that we never consider the other moons in our solar system. The truth is, the full moon is just a phase. Energetically speaking, it does affect us all. You've seen some random acts during a full moon. This is what we call lunacy, because our moon is called Luna. But depending upon the person, it can affect them in a very positive way or in a very negative way. Now, here's another question. Is there really free will, or is there every action determined by a cause? And what about divine intervention? Both of them are true. There is free will. But your every action is determined, not your action, but the effect of your action. Your action is the cause. The effect is the outcome of your action. So yes, we are also governed by cause and effect, if you want to put it that way. But everyone has free will, no matter what. Free will and choice is what people get mixed up. You know, my choice not to have cream in my coffee, that's not free will. You know, your free will is basically for you to make a decision. And that decision is, be you of light or be you of darkness. In other words, where do you choose to place your free will? And that is entirely up to you. No one can coerce your free will. They can ask you, and it's up to you to decide. But when you do, try not to make it flippant, okay? Take a moment and determine where you want your free will to be. If you choose to serve darkness, that is entirely your business. If you choose to serve light, that is entirely your business. Now, all of the choices that you will make in your life from that point on will actually be determined by what you've chosen to place your free will into. Now, whether we are talking about divine intervention, remember, divine intervention is divine intervention. And there's really That doesn't control anything. You still have the choice to do what it is that you want to do in your life, no matter what anyone has to say about it. What is the difference between determination versus free will? That's an obvious question there. Free will is something that you have the right to. Your determination is also something you have the right to, but you can be determined to bump your head in a wall and no one can stop you. Okay? Eventually you will find a way. That doesn't make it good for you. However, your free will is always good for you, no matter what. One is based upon a want, the other is based upon an action. Okay? Do we really have free will with guilty religion? No, you don't. Would there be morality without religion? I would think so. Spirituality has its own morality. Now, what you're basically talking about is a bias. What a person calls morality is up to them. And unfortunately, what we call morality these days was based upon the choices that a few people made that affect all of us. And in the beginning of those few choices that people have made that affect all of us, we were threatened. The moment that you threaten someone, I don't care what it is, if you threaten a person with going to hell, you are violating their free will. And that's usually where religion comes in. You know, if you eat too much chocolate cake, you're going to go to hell because you're indulging in something you really like, and that is against God. But God never really said that, did he? You know, it's just a few people decided, okay, we're going to lock everybody up in this room, and we're going to determine how people should use their free will. And if they don't use it in the way that we choose for them to use it, we're going to do things like boil them in oil, we're going to crucify them, we're going to do all manner of atrocity to them because they don't make the choice that we want them to make. But listen, and this is for everyone out there that has made the choice to be religious, or in any religion, or someone who's been guilted into it by saying things like, by people saying things such as, I'm concerned for your immortal soul. I'm concerned as to whether or not you're going to go to heaven or hell. The moment that you do that to a person, you have violated their free will. Every person has a right to believe in what it is that they want to believe in. It may not make what they believe right, but they do have the choice to. Okay? You don't have to agree with them. We got whole armies of people running all around trying to convince everybody that the Lord is their personal savior. You know, listen. When it comes to those types of things, that is no one's business but yours and God's or goddesses. Listen, God does not run a football team. He does not have a team that needs to go out and recruit people. If God wanted to reach you, he could reach you very, very easily without people carrying backpacks, without people carrying a little book waiting to hit you over the head, without people going and threatening you and telling you that they're the witness of God, as if God needs a witness. You know, without going around and trying to convince you that if you don't follow their particular way, you're going to hell. That's rude. So the moment that you get coerced into doing that, it's not your choice, it's someone else's choice. I can remember people and know people, and even myself, that got beaten because I didn't want to go to this church where this person was yelling at me, asking me a question that I had absolutely no clue to. Am I going to heaven or hell? I did not even know either of them existed. Or I may have known, but I may not have called them those. And I definitely didn't think that I actually had the choice to go to either one of them. And this is when I was a child. It should be up to me. It's kind of, you know, do I choose to be an artist? Or do I choose to be a politician? That's solely up to me. Now, back to the morality question. What we call morality and based upon religion is not morality. That's imprisonment. We have laws for things like that. You know, we have our own thoughts on what morality is. You know, there are those that think it's immoral to be obese. So we've even given that a name. But again, look, if you want to have that extra piece of chocolate cake, that's up to you. But don't go getting mad because you can't get into that new pair of pants that you bought. You know, don't go blaming someone else for it. Don't blame the people who made the chocolate cake. Now, that's immoral. If you're going around hurting people, that's immoral. That's simple. That has nothing to do with religion. That has to do with common sense. And what common sense is a sense of the common good. So, to be spiritual or not to be spiritual has absolutely nothing to do with what we call morality. We throw that word around awfully. And I think it's really interesting that the very people that have set up the rules for morality are the most immoral people that there are. How can you talk about morality when we know that there are children being starved, or that there are people who are hurting? Talk about morality, but there were slaves. And we still have things like racism and sexism. Well, God says to do this. Prove it. Prove to me what God said. If you have that wonderful book that we call a Bible, that's supposed to be the gospel, or of God, the Word of God, prove it. And don't be afraid. Prove to me that that has anything to do with what we call morality. All right. This is from Adriana. Hello, Adriana. And how are you today? Good. What does it mean when you have dreams that happen in the same place, but the dreams themselves are different? Interesting. What does it mean when you have dreams that happen in the same place? Do you mean that the people are different? What you asked me is if you have dreams that happen in the same place, but the dreams themselves are different. Oh, in other words, you have dreams that happen all, like it's all in the same room. You're in the same room every single time, but the dreams themselves are different. Perhaps that's a comfortable place for you to be, or, you know, a uncomfortable place for you to be. It means that there are different scenarios. And I think that you, Adriana, specifically do have lucid, what we call lucid dreams, which means that there are dreams that you're aware that you're having. In other words, you know when you're dreaming, but just don't know what to do. And I think that's what the training is for, to help you to understand that you can do certain things in the dream. If you go to the same room all the time, look around, see what you can see, and maybe detect a difference in the actual room, or see what it is that you're trying to do in the room. And then stop and realize, hey, this is a dream again. And then do it from that perspective. In other words, the moment that you say, you discover, I'm dreaming, instead of saying, oh my God, I'm dreaming, because if you do that, you're going to wake up and you won't get what it is that the dream wants you to do. Take a moment and look around slowly to see what the dream itself is trying to show you. Okay? It will be very helpful. Don't forget to write all of your dreams down, okay? Because I know you do from time to time. Just try to write as much of it down as possible. You don't have to do every single word. And then when you come here and you can say sometimes, or when you're talking to me in person, you can actually say what the dream is about, but it was in the same room. There's always a difference no matter what. Now remember, I had you all designing your dream rooms a little while ago, so you may have done that just extra well, which doesn't surprise me. I have always thought that you had a propensity for lucid dreaming, and you're just proving that you do. Bella also does, but I think less than you, Bella knows what it is that she's seeing. So I think you're on the right track. Just try to relax and remember everything that you see. Is it true that bad things happen in threes? Does the same apply for good things? Well, I'm personally someone that does things in threes. I really don't. I hope it's not true that bad things happen in threes. It would be far better if they didn't, but the reality is we live in a third dimensional reality. We're the third planet from the sun, and there is an actual order that falls in threes. good things can happen in threes as well, although you might miss the three. We're not always aware of things. You may have something good happen, and then you're so distracted by that one thing that's happened that you don't see the others. Or you may get two of them. But if it does happen in threes, it's basically because of our own planetary makeup and our planetary energy makeup. Being the third planet from the sun does have a major effect on almost anything that we do. There's no coincidence that we are the third planet from the sun, yet live primarily in a third dimensional reality. And even that third dimensional reality can be bent, it can be questioned from time to time. But 3 is a very important number. Remember, in the basic metaphysics, 1 and 1 do make 3. And that means that it takes 2 energies in order to create a third energy. So, there is quite the possibility that that does indeed happen. People like myself have decided to take control of that particular element and decide to do things in threes. Almost everything that I do is in threes, no matter what it is. I even take, when I'm drinking water, I take so many swallows as is divisible by 3. Now, whether or not that's just a quirk of mine, who knows? But I do it. I don't sit and think about it. I just do it and go, threes again. You know, it's just the way that it is. I do know that 3 has a mystical inference because of the fact that 1 and 1 do make 3. And now we're taught that 1 and 1 make 2, and that's fine, as it has to do with mathematics, but in truth, it makes 3. Remember, you take 1 of something and 1 of something different, and you will always get a third element, no matter what it is. You know, you can do it with almost anything. You take water, you mix coffee in it, you get coffee, or what we drink. You take green, and you take blue, or excuse me, you take yellow and blue, and you get green. It's just that way. Things can be created that way. The interesting thing is that you cannot create, that formula does not work if you take 2 of the same thing. It just makes, you know, more of the same thing. You know, so as far as good things and bad things, we tend to mystify a great deal of things. Nothing is coincidental. So perhaps things do happen in threes. In my case, I make things happen in threes, you know, and then what happens is that particular energy begins to perpetuate itself. You can do the same thing. Did they get the 10 Commandments right? Or are they universal truths? Well, they should be, if they are not universal truths. I think that they may have gotten the 10 Commandments right, but I don't think that they're the 10 Commandments that you and I see. The 10 Commandments that were more than 10, and I wholeheartedly suspect that they are entirely different from what we see. Most of those are just plain old common sense. You know, golden rule, you know, thou shalt not kill. Yet in order for us to eat, we have to kill. And it doesn't matter what it is, plant or animal. There are many people out there that form little factions that have decided to say, well, you know, you eat meat, so that makes you a killer. But did you ever consider that the plants were alive? You know, so you really can't, we can't just take for granted that those, the 10 Commandments and those were the 10 Commandments that God himself wrote. Because in all actuality, I think that the commandments that the Almighty has set for us are far more than just 10. And if those were actually his commandments, don't you think that he would see to them being followed? So I'll leave that up to each person. Some of them are just plain old common sense. You know, the others are something that was meant to, obviously, were meant as a standard, but not followed. For instance, thou shalt not bear false witness. That happens all the time. Thou shalt not kill. Again, that happens all the time. You know, we have to look at things and determine for ourselves which ones we will decide to take into our own lives. As far as universal truths, They are the truth if you make them the truth in your own life. Don't follow them because someone said you should. You follow them because that resonates on the inside of you, as all truth does. If it doesn't ring with you, then you won't follow it. And it won't matter if it's universal truths or not. So, I think that they are highly recommended for a good life. I cannot say that they are universal truths. If they were, then they would definitely not fall within the jurisdiction of politics. And anyone, any person that claims to be religious, that claims to be Christian, that claims to have that type of faith, that decides to put it within politics, has missed the point entirely. Remember, God was not a politician. Neither was Jesus. As a matter of fact, they steered away from politics. Do you know that the word politics actually means deception? To coerce a person into believing something that they may not actually believe, and to coerce a person to do that is kind of like saying you have to think this way. And there are politicians now that are trying to use God in order to win their campaign. Bad news. Listen, for those of you that are politicians that are trying to do that, listen closely. There really is a God. There really is a God. And when you do that, God is watching you. So keep God out of our petty arguments, okay? It's best to do that. All right. When a person acts in accordance with principles such as peace, are they bringing themselves closer to the angel of that principle? Do you mean the creator of that principle? I think that you're bringing yourself closer to the actual principle. And if you choose to see that, because there are principal angels, if you choose to see that as a principle, yes. I think you could do worse than thinking of peace as an angel. So, yes. The question is, can you maintain it? Can you stay in contact with that angel or that principle? Can you actually stay in contact with it? That's the real question. See how long you can. You'll find that there are always challenges. But you know, if you surmount those challenges and you meet them, one and one will get you three. Perhaps you will become peace itself. That's really what you want. Can cultural group consciousness change the energy of a misappropriated holiday from something negative into something positive, i.e. Thanksgiving? Yes. But you must also recognize how it came to be and not cover it over with a myth or a story. Some of us actually know the whole story of Thanksgiving. It is not pretty. However, it is up to each one of us to identify that within ourselves that would allow what actually happened, and then change it. Recognize that it is within each of us to take something and transform that energy into a peaceful thing. For instance, I did not call it Thanksgiving, I call it Harvest Day, simply because of the inference and the reference that that word has. You know, the whole pilgrim story. You know, I'm sorry, I'm part native. I know the truth. However, I have decided to recognize that particular day as a day that those that I love are in unison and harmony. And that we have that feast in order to recognize that we have something. We don't have to have a lot, but we have something. And it's a beautiful time for everyone to come together and be thankful for what it is that you do have. I call it Harvest Day. It's a day that we harvest all of the joy that we've tried to keep and all of the peace that we've tried to keep, and those things that are beautiful in our lives that we have decided this is the day that we're going to celebrate it, even though we do celebrate it every single day as much as we possibly can. You make it positive. It's up to you. But recognize what it took in order for you to have a positive day. It took a lot of people suffering. Don't forget that part. And then truly, truly, you have something to be thankful for. No, you don't have to go and trudge through the mud and think of yourself as part of humanity that did such things. But you know, it would help if you turned in your mind and just for a moment said, I recognize what has happened. Had I been there, I would have done something to stop it. However, I am here. Thank you all for being so strong. That's how you do that. Yes, I can, actually. A kid-friendly version of what really happened. As in all things, we have things that are sacrificed. As you grow up, you're going to find out that Thanksgiving means a lot. To you, Thanksgiving is turkey. It's being able to eat and spend time with your family. And everybody gets very, very full of really good food. To others, it was very hard work, hard and diligent. People fought so that you can have homes now. People had to go through hard times in order for you to have a good time. And these people were natives, and there were people from other countries that came here so that they could be free from tyranny, or tyranny, however you choose to say it. During that time, there were some good and bad things that were done. And I'll leave it up to you to discover what those good and bad things were. However, now you all have your families, however small or however large they are, and you all get to sit at the table and enjoy the company of each other and be thankful for that. Just turn once in a while and remember all those people that had to go through what they had to go through, again, in order for you to be thankful and thank them. And for those that had to work too hard, that had to give up too much, maybe turn and say, I'm sorry you had to give up so much, but thank you for being who you were. That's how you do that. Real simple. And then later, when children are capable of understanding, you explain it to them. That's something that the parents should do. For those of you that don't have everyone capable, I make a pretty good godfather. I'll be happy to sit down and explain it to you one day. But until then, have a good time with your family and make sure that they make you pecan pie. Okay? Make sure. Bella, I know you will. You make sure that you have pecan pie. Okay. Does an individual's beliefs affect what kind of afterlife they have? Such in reincarnation, heaven, hell, Valhalla, etc. It may. It may indeed. It may not. As it comes to reincarnation, and we all do that, regardless of who we are, unless we've done something to violate the very principle of life itself, we all have our lessons that need to be learned. You can call them lessons or experiences. It's up to you. But if you choose that particular way of belief, such as Valhalla, and I think that's very cool, heaven, hell, whatever, you'll follow that, and that's what you'll expect. You may find that your expectations pale in comparison, or you may find that the energy that you've built up will actually build that for you. It's kind of like building a house while you're here in wherever kingdom you choose to go to. It doesn't mean that just because you want to go to a Gothic kingdom that everything is going to be Gothic when you leave this body. That's not the way that it works. It's not so much what you believe as what you know. Remember, belief is just a bridge. It's only a bridge. There's acceptance, belief, and then knowing. Don't get stuck in your belief. Remember, if you believe something, you go through all your life just believing, you're going to eventually have to disbelieve. It's kind of like trusting a person. You know, if you trust someone, eventually you're going to have to distrust them. They go hand in hand, no matter what you say. And if you have to turn to a person and say, I trust you, then at some point in time you're going to turn to that same person and say, you know, I can't trust you. So belief is full of expectation. Remember that. It's better to know a person. It's better to understand a person. It's better to accept a person for who they are. If that person is causing harm in your life, then no matter what you believe, you're being harmed. Get out. Or have that person leave. If that person is causing joyful feelings in your life and things that are positive, be joyful. Be positive. You'll know how that person is eventually. It's the same with your thought. If this is if something such as Valhalla is the thing that you choose to follow, then follow it with gusto. And know everything about it. That's how you do that. If it is Christianity, know everything about it. As much as you can. If you choose to follow the Egyptian way of life, know everything you can. That's anything. Those of you that are druids or pagans or Wiccans, know everything you can. Not just believe it. Your belief can be broken. You don't need that. Know it. Don't stop at the road of belief. Travel that road. And then get on the path of knowing. That's how you do that. So, it can affect how you are. Belief is something that gets you to where you want to be. Now, what is a karmic family? And how do you know when someone is in your karmic family? How do you know when someone is not? Those that are in your karmic family, and it's not so much when someone says karmic family, that means that someone that you have something to complete with. Now, more than not, your actual karmic family is someone that you're born with in order to complete something. Chronological family, karmic family. You have to complete something. But when you're done, you'll know it. And at that point in time, you have to go out and find your spiritual family. If you choose to think of that as your karmic family, fine. Your karmic family are those people that are going to grow, evolve with you, and help you to keep promises to yourself. They're not the ones that suffer any type of guilt over you or allow you to suffer any guilt over them. They're the ones that are supportive in what it is you want to do in your life, so long as that want has something to do with your evolution and growth. You know, they will not step in your way. That would be your karmic family, and you always know it. You know it. Whether that karmic family stays with you, or whether that evolutionary family stays with you, or not, is solely up to them. Not up to you. You'll know it. If someone comes up and says, you know, I feel a psychic connection with you, that doesn't make them your karmic family. It means maybe they just want to get to know you. Or maybe they want something else. I've seen so many people use that particular line in order to get a date. I feel like I have a connection with you. If I don't, let's make one. You know, your karmic family is something that's going to help you. It's like two things are heading in a certain direction. And in order for them to move in the right direction, they actually have to contact each other. And they have to contact each other and stay in contact for a time until they meet another portion. And then all of you together build this wonderful network of positive people, you know, of people that are going to grow and evolve and do something wonderful to affect not only yourselves, but the whole world at large. Now, how you know that is that there's no trouble. You blend instantaneously almost. And when I say blend, I mean blend. Now, unfortunately, most of us take that to a physical level. This doesn't necessarily mean that that's your karmic family. Almost everything that will happen in that spiritual family will be of a building nature. That's how you'll know. And there's strength in that build. As my teacher used to say, two can fight the dragon better than one. In other words, the more eyes you have that are all in accordance with each other, the more undefeatable you become. It's the most amazing thing. I found people that I have known in other lives, and people that have known me in other lives. And every once in a while, it used to be unnerving, when someone says, they look at you in a certain way and you feel it. They don't have to say, I know you. Or, haven't we met before? Or I feel as though we've known each other. Even though we've only known each other a week, I feel as though we've known each other forever. Okay, which one is it? Do you know what I mean? Certain things don't necessarily have to be said. They are experienced. And that's how you know. Okay? And you also know if you're having trouble with someone constantly, you're having trouble constantly, that is not your spiritual family. That's somebody else's. The both of you may be, all of you may be beautiful people, just not with each other. And that's okay. I've met so many people that have tried to either change or fix someone that just did not blend with them because they wanted them to so bad. I want this person to blend with me because they know how to play the trombone. Sorry, that was a bad example. But maybe they need to find their own orchestra, or there's an orchestra that's missing the trombone. And you don't need a trombone, you need a harp. The interesting thing about it is if you're insisting on keeping someone who obviously is not part of your spiritual family and your growth family, you will interfere with what that person has to do somewhere else. And there could be another band somewhere that is waiting for their player, but you have them, which means that your band person is out there floating somewhere going, sometimes you do have to follow divine order. As I said, divinity can be very chaotic, but it does have its own order. And remember that. So, that's how that is. Now, I want to cover something. Listen, you are all going to experience things. And you're going to experience things different than normal because of some of the energies that have shifted. Okay? Some of you are going to see what you call shadow people. Some of you are going to see what you call light people. True, it's already been happening, but it's going to happen more. Listen, we are multidimensional beings. And you're going to experience that. So if you see someone that looks like they appeared and disappeared, don't go running down the street thinking it's the end of the world. That's ridiculous. If anything, it is the beginning of a new level of this world. Just keep an open mind. Let's see. What is the truth behind what is the truth behind the stories of druids? Did they really do blood sacrifices, etc.? That's really interesting. A lot of stories and writings say that they did, and said that they were bad. Well, there were a lot of stories that said that the natives were bad as well. And they glorified those that pretty much did away with many of the tribes here. You can't believe everything you read. I'm sure that there were blood sacrifices. But did you know that in the old Hebrew traditions there were blood sacrifices? Did you know that even in some Christian practices there were blood sacrifices? Did you know that almost every cultural, spiritual standpoint there was a blood sacrifice of some kind? Until finally someone said, hey, that's really weird, we're not doing that anymore. So, I would imagine that they are very true, and from what I know, some of the stories are true. But remember, there are light and darkness. If something has to do with blood, It has to do with sacrificing an individual, a person. That's not good, ever. But remember, you fight light and darkness wherever you go, depending upon your side. There are people that wholeheartedly believe in those things. Who am I to question their beliefs? However, they do not jive with my own. I do not deal with blood in any way, shape, or form. There are those that believe in the blood of Christ. I know that Jesus had blood, okay? And truthfully speaking, had I been around, had I been able to, I would have stopped them from making him bleed. Anything that has to do with bloodletting is wrong. Remember that. To them it may be right, but I serve light. And light says we do not kill people under any circumstances. We do not hurt them. Your blood stays in your body. As far as the druids, yeah, there were sacrifices. But there were also those that refused to do that. So don't just take one side of it. Because if you do, then you also have to question Christianity. Remember that. Don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. Okay. Now, do we each have elements that we have a natural ability with? In other words, do we each have a natural ability or affinity with something? Yes, of course you do. How do we use that to our advantage? Find out what it is. In order to find out what it is, you may have to have someone show you, and then practice, practice, practice. Listen to how to be trained in that particular area. But in order for you to do that, you've got to do something. You can't just sit at home and wait for your gift to hit you in the nose. Go out. Find what it is that you truly love. Find something that you have the predilection to do. If you need help, there are those of us around the world that can help you. And then, play it up. Work on it. For instance, I had a natural ability with music, so I worked on it. Natural ability is one thing, but you must also have discipline. So don't think that one day you're going to spring up as a magnificent psychic with absolutely no discipline. I did that. You know what that leads to? Trouble. Very talented young man, no discipline whatsoever. So finally I had to have someone help me. And I'm still grateful to that person today. Okay. If you don't already have the natural ability, is it possible to learn to see ghosts? Well, that's the thing. You do have that natural ability. Every human does. Do you understand? It's just that there are things that are undeveloped. It's the same with weightlifting. Each of us has a body, and because we have a body, we have the ability to make that body stronger with discipline and learning. Now, you may not see them the way that the person does with the natural ability, depending upon whether or not that person is disciplined. But you will know what you see when you see it. If you train and you show you elevate that natural ability. It's like building that muscle. Okay? Remember, there are just some of us that are born with more. And if we train that, it increases and increases and increases. Those of us that are not born with that much do have the ability. It's just either dormant or undeveloped. Now, there are those that do not have a certain ability, but they have another one that will become an equalizer. Do you understand? It's kind of like you may be born without eyes, physical eyes, but you will develop your other senses to the degree that they cancel out that inequality. So, if you really want to see ghosts, I'm sure you have, you just didn't know what you were seeing. And then with development, you will know what you're seeing. All right, it is about that time. I'm sorry. At some point in time, I will do more than an hour class, okay? One more. Is schizophrenia sometimes something other than a mental disorder? Yes. Sometimes schizophrenia is a battle of consciousnesses. Perhaps that person picked up an astral entity that is battling for supremacy, which is kind of stupid because they know they'll eventually have to go back to where they came from. But yeah, sometimes it's an astral fixation, and that person either left their body and then something came back with them, and that could be up to 12 or 13 different personalities depending upon the person's nature. I'm sure you've heard old stories of people that have come back with multiple personality, what they call multiple personality disorder. Sometimes that's an astral disorder, and all those people are inhabiting that one mind. Remember that your body and your mind and your consciousness is vast. I mean, it's just huge, but it is for you to develop, not you and everybody else. You know, so this is why I tell people to stay out of the astral realm, because there's a good chance that you will pick up something and bring it back with you. And, you know, especially mediums. There are some people that are built that way, but mediums take an awful risk, you know, in allowing anything into their body. You know, because sometimes that residual will happen so much that it builds up space. And it does build up space. And it can take over that space and lodge itself in there so that there's a connection to the entity that they have been speaking with all this time. So yeah, there is the possibility that it could be something else. Usually I'll have to go in and remove that entity, but it happens. Now, as I was saying earlier, there will come a point in time where I'll do longer than an hour in these particular shows or in these particular things. Think of your questions, write them down. I'll be happy to answer them, so long as everyone can benefit from them. Okay? If you have questions that are of a private nature, you can email me. Okay? You all have the website, the different websites, and I'll be happy to answer those questions too. As I said, I may not get to you immediately, but I do promise that I'll get to you. Okay? And there's no question that is too difficult for me to answer. And that's of anything that has to do with the paranormal, metaphysical, spiritual, or even if your physical life is hampered to a degree. Okay? Now, if there are no more questions, all your children should be in bed by now. You all know who you are, even though there's no school tomorrow, as far as I know. I hope you all have a wonderful Harvest Day. Celebrate it how you choose to. And if you happen to see something or think of something, please write it down. Again, sometimes my energy, even if you're just talking to me this way, has a habit of just wiping out your question, even though you may have had it all week. All of a sudden, here you are, and your question just disappears. So please, write it down. I'm Ahura Z for Ask the Unicorn. Thank you all. Happy Harvest Day. Eat a lot, please. Go to sleep. Wake back up again. Eat some more. Eat all your food and your vitamins and all that good stuff. And I will see you next week. Namaste.